camera's rolling. I like the danger in it. The heart pounds. It defies logic. It's thrilling to me.
The 55th big game is here, 55, and this game deserves a prize. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top sportsbook app, is giving all new customers a no-brainer of an offer.
To celebrate football's finale, DraftKings Sportsbook is doubling your money if one touchdown is scored on Sunday night. All it takes is for one touchdown to be scored Sunday night, and boom, your money is doubled.
With double the cash, you'll be celebrating until next season. Don't forget about DraftKings Big Game Prediction Challenge, with up to $55 million in prizes up for grabs.
Everyone who enters the DraftKings Big Game Prediction Challenge gets an instant prize. So make sure you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code SMOKE.
DraftKings has paid out over $7 billion to its players since 2012, so they know about paydays. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code SMOKE and get a chance at doubling your money if a touchdown scored in Sunday's game.
That's code SMOKE to get a shot at doubling your money in Sunday's season finale. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for more details. Welcome back, man. Season 2 of All the Smoke.
We got a real special guest.
What's up with your Brody with the virtual handshake?
I'm going to tell y'all something that I never told nobody.
I want all the smoke.
Welcome back to another edition of All the Smoke. Jack, what's going on out there in Atlanta?
Man, it's freezing, man. Hey, and like we said earlier, it would be funny if the first day of Black History Month, it's snow everywhere.
It's nice out here in LA. Not nice. It's in the mid-60s out here in LA. I can't complain. We got a really special guest. We appreciate you taking time. We know you're on the road right now. Let's welcome to the show Doc Rivers. Doc,
Coach,
what's
what
going
up,
on?
Coach?
What's up, fellas?
How are you?
What's going on? The season, the road, it is what it is.
So we were just talking before we got on, and I think it would be interesting for our viewers to hear that too, because obviously, when Jack and I played in your whole entire career, the road is kind of a chance where you get away from home, you can go to some new restaurants, you can get out and check out a new city. It's completely opposite that now. It almost seems like you guys are on complete lockdown, and sometimes actually you guys are the only people in the hotel. Talk to us a little bit about what that experience is like.
Yeah, in most cases, you're the only person in the entire hotel. They wish you in through the back door. You're going through service elevators. It's really strange. I would say still, I would take it over the bubble. But, because you are playing in the actual arena, so you feel like you're on a road trip. Mm-hmm. The biggest difference is you just never leave the hotel. And for me, like coaches, you literally, you get in your room, you don't leave the room. You may go down and grab a bite with the fellas. Other than that, you're in your room. So it is definitely different. But again, if you ask me which one I'd take the way we're doing it now than over the bubble.
I'm sure everyone else feels that way too. Well, let's get to it. Fresh start in Philly. How has that been? I saw you go there. As soon as you signed there, I was just like, Doc is one of the best motivators I've ever played for. And to me, from the outside looking in, it seemed like that was all those stars needed, was someone to, make them feel comfortable on who they are and being the best them. And we're seeing that particularly out of Joel Embiid, who's playing at an MVP and obviously all-star caliber this year.
Yeah, it was interesting. When I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was going to do what you guys are doing now. Take a year off and, just relax a little bit. Guys, this is 21 straight years.
That's a lot.
I haven't had an off year ever,
Right.
And so I thought about it for about 20 minutes. And and then the Philly job was just so interesting to me because of Ben and Joel. I knew Tobias was there, and I had coached him, and I thought I could get to him as well. So this group, it just needed a change, like culture, and it wasn't as much as on the floor, and it was some of that. We had to change just the culture all around, on the floor, in the office, in our development, everything, and they allowed me to come in and do that. Elton at the start was the main guy, and then we bring in Daryl. So just having that group behind me and allowing me to do the things that I need to do that I think helps us win was they've been amazing. And then we had to get our guys, our players, to understand what winning actually looks like.
Right.
And I think you guys have played long enough. You know the game. Like, I think there's a lot of great players, but I don't think all of them understand what winning actually is and what it looks like, what it takes. It's hard to win. You don't luck up. There's no lucky champions. There never will be. And so you got to do all the preparation and put in all the time, and then go through I hate using the word the process, because it's been
that process over there for a minute.
But we jokingly told our guys preparation, process, and then the parade. But you don't get the last one until you do the other two first.
Exactly.
Well, you had a particular mindset with that 2008 championship Celtics team for you guys to capture that title. What has been the mindset you want your players to embody with this new run with Philly?
Yeah, every group is different, man. I had that whole Ubuntu thing with the Celtics, and they were just the perfect group because they were ready. They had all had their MVPs and their All-Stars, Ray and KG and Paul. They were ready to win. Like, they wanted to be coached, they wanted to be led, they wanted to figure out how to do something together. Then I went with the Clippers, and Matt, that first group, as you know. I thought the talent was there, I just didn't think we ever wanted to be a team, at least do it together.
We'll definitely get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, and it takes that.
Absolutely.
So then you go to this group, and I kept using the word yet. Like, every time since I've taken this job, Joel Embiid and Ben haven't won. And I said, well, they're 24, 20. Can we say yet? They haven't won yet. Like, they still have time. Right. They have time they have to improve. We have to improve as a group together. But the yet word is very important. And that's what we're trying to do now, is trying to remove that word. But that word is in front of us. And until we do something about it, guys, it's going to stay there.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, Doc. I said when you took the job that you were one coach that knows how to get the best out of his players, not only because you played, but you also knew how to hold guys accountable. And that's what I think Ben was kind of missing, being that he had such a great relationship with Brett Brown. And I know even with guys, all-stars like KG and Paul, you held them accountable. I think that's going to take these guys to the next level. How special are Ben and Embiid?
They're both better than I thought, which is, I got to tell you, from a coach saying that, that's a hell of a feeling.
That's scary, right? That's scary.
It's a great feeling. And both of them are in completely different ways. There's that old saying, you don't know a player until you play with them or coach him. And, like, I loved him from afar. Like, I saw Ben, we had a game, I think it was 2 years ago. He just came into L.A. and destroyed the Lakers and then destroyed the Clippers. And I was like, man, this guy. And then you coach him, and he has so many different skill sets. Everybody's focused on his shooting, and when you watch him play, he does so many different things to affect winning that analytics and numbers can never justify on what he does. He's one of the few guys, Kawhi had a little bit of this too, where defensively he can literally swallow you. That's how it feels like when he gets into you. He just swallows you. You don't see that very often with guys. And his instincts offensively, he's not a point guard. Like, Magic was a 6'10" point guard. Ben can play point from his position. He's never going to be a guy that comes down and see all the calls. But if you put him in actions with his instincts, I'm telling you, there's I think it was Dwight or someone said he has LeBron-like instincts, and he does. He has the size, he has the ability. He can make only like few people, Magic, LeBron, and him, those bullet passes across the court because of their size. And then Joel L. is, listen, he's offensively, And I didn't know. I thought he was good. I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was really, really good. But I don't know how you stop him when he gets it in this place without double teaming him. And that's what teams were doing. And so what we had to do was get him comfortable with being double teamed and getting him to understand, having the mindset, if you double team me, we're going to score. Mm-hmm. If you don't double team me, we're going to score.
Right, regardless.
And he has that mindset now. You can see it. Like, this is the first time he invites double teams now. You remember Barkley would like, come on, guys, come on over here. He's doing that now. Where, in our first conversations, it was hilarious. Oh, he talked about, they're going to double team me. And I was like, yeah, bro, that's what they should do.
Right.
And
you need to get some tape on Tim Duncan.
Yeah, that's fine. And you're still getting yours. And now he's realizing he can score and he can also facilitate from the post. And the last thing is we had to get our team to understand that. No, Joel's our go-to guy. And we had to make that clear. So I think just defining what our guys needed to do has really been helpful.
Being a star in your role, that was one thing I remembered you preached to the Clipper team is just, everyone can be a star at what they have to do. And when you do that, you have a better chance at winning.
See, Matt, I didn't even know you were listening to me. I'm not
I was multitasking. You got a second chance to coach Tobias Harris. He had his best year as a pro with you as a Clipper. Now he's at that level again, which to me was huge because, things didn't work out with Jimmy Butler. And felt like you guys needed a wing that can close the games and do a lot of the things that Tobias has in him. He just hasn't been able to show all the time. What has it been like? Because obviously I think you're someone that's been able to get into him and encourage him to be the best of himself. And we're definitely seeing that again with you as his coach for the second time.
Yeah, it's great. Sometimes, as you know, you can go back to the same place and it's not the same.
Right.
It's different. And this one has been great. I mean, I think the first practice, ball swung, Tobias started going in between his legs. I blow the whistle. I was like, no, bro, no. And I was like, Tobias, that's just not you.
Right.
And he started laughing. He was like, here we go. Here we go. But when I tell you, when he's straight line, quick decision, decisive,
he's tough.
He is a monster to guard. And that's what we got him doing again. He's confident. He's catching it and shooting it, catching it and attacking. With his size, people forget, and you guys probably remember, but he used to be just a post player, in college. And so we're giving him that as well back. We're putting the post game back into him. So it's been really nice. And as a guy, listen, you need great guys on your team, and he's one of them.
Mm-hmm. It just looks like to me.
I had him as a rookie, Matt, in Milwaukee.
Yep.
I had him in Milwaukee, and he's, one of the best kids ever. I knew once he get up under the right teacher, he would be good, but he had all the tools, the size, everything. But besides, like I said, he's a great kid, one of the best teammates you can have.
He just looks like he's at peace with his game. He's very comfortable at what he's doing, and that's obviously when he's the most effective. The 55th big game is here this weekend, and this game deserves a big prize. DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of Super Bowl 55, has up to $55 million in prizes up for grabs with their Super Bowl prediction pool.
To get your share of these huge prizes, all you have to do is enter the DraftKings free Super Bowl prediction challenge. Submit your picks, and you'll get a free instant prize up to $25,000.
If you have the most predictions correct, you can win top prize of $1 million.
Download the app now and enter the free prediction challenge. And answer questions like, who will score last? And then boom, make it rain.
DraftKings has paid over $7 billion out to its players since 2012, so they know all about big paydays. All right, Jack, Super Bowl this weekend. Who do you got?
Man, it's kind of hard to go against Tom Brady, dog, but I'm going with my homeboy. I think the Chiefs are going to go back-to-back. I can't wait to see what the Cheetah going to do. He's been having some okay games. I think he'll have a blast-out game in the Super Bowl, and I'm picking Cheetah for the Super Bowl MVP.
It's hard to disagree with that, just like it's hard to bet against Tom Brady. The first time in NFL history a team has had a home game. Brady's looking good. Offense is looking good. Defense is solid, but I'm with you. I got Mahomes. I think that Mahomes and Kelsey connection is going to go down in history. So I'm looking for the Chiefs to repeat and for Mahomes to win back-to-back Super Bowl MVPs. Download the DraftKings app now. and use the code SMOKE to enter the free $55 million Super Bowl challenge.
Everyone gets the instant prize up to $25,000 for just playing. So make sure you download the DraftKings app and use the code SMOKE to enter the free $55 million Prediction Super Bowl challenge.
Only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of Super Bowl 55. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for more details. Let's take it back to your upbringing. Your dad was a cop. Was that a tough situation back then? Obviously, police brutality has been on the spotlight my whole life. Was it tough having a father as a cop as a child?
SHOWTIME.
It's funny, Matt. It wasn't, because I lived in a community, a black community, mostly black cops, you know. My dad was a cop. He was the baseball coach, the football coach, the basketball coach. Every time I came home from school, there's some mom or grandmother sitting on the couch with their son crying, and my dad giving them, you know, advice or threatening them that if I see you do that again, I'm gonna kick your butt. You know, my dad was tough, man. Like, but he was tough to me. He was tough to the whole community in a very, like, positive way.
Right.
But we don't have that anymore. So, but the fact that, and this is what gets me, the fact that my dad had to have to talk with me. Think about that. My dad's a cop.
Right.
And he used to tell me, boy, when you go out of this neighborhood, like, you got to be careful. You got to watch it. If you get pulled over, if you get stopped. I remember when I got my license, he sits me down on the couch, and that was the talk. If I pull you over, you're good. If Willie Boy pulled you over, and Willie Boy was another cop in Maywood, we all knew their names. You know, you walk down the street in my neighborhood, and the cop starts riding down the street, you would wave.
Right.
But you go in the next neighborhood, and the cop slows down. First thing you want to do is run. The second thing you start thinking is, oh, shit, here it comes. Something's going to happen. And it did happen. It happened to all of us. It happened to me. I got thrown in the paddy wagon once, and I was just standing on the corner, but I wasn't in my neighborhood. And, you know, so, yeah, it was difficult in that way, but not the way I can't imagine how it would be now. Listen, we didn't have body cams. We had no proof. You know, my grandmother, my great-grandfather, all of them used to complain and tell us about these stories, but we didn't have any proof. George Floyd, and even before George Floyd, we got proof now that it actually is happening, and it's happening at a normal rate. It's not like once every 5 years. You know, it's happening at a normal rate, and, you know, I'm so happy what you guys are doing, what everyone is doing. Because without our voices, this stuff would get swept under the rug, and it's not over just because Joe Biden went and got in office. Like, we got to keep the pressure on, but we got to get legislation passed, guys. We got to get things changed, and you know, change is not bad. It's bad for people. It's bad for people who don't want that change. And you know, equality, I don't understand what's wrong with equality and why people think if I give you equal rights that I'm losing something. It's just, it's nuts. But that comes with, you know, when you have everything, you don't want to give up anything. And you're not. But we want our fair shake. And guys, like, we got to keep fighting for it.
I think you touched on it perfectly. You know, growing back up, I remember hearing stories where the community knew the cops back in the day by name, you know, so it wasn't necessarily if I'm in your neighborhood, I know you. I know who's causing street, is Willie down the street or is Jim around the corner. They knew people by name, and now they're putting cops that have no relation or understanding to these communities, and they're scared. And when you're scared, you do crazy shit. And we're scared on both sides. You know, like, they're scared of us, we're scared of them. You know, so there's no actual line of synergy. There's no communication. Most of the times it's just guns and tasers, and that's very unfortunate.
Well, think about how many times, probably in different communities, where a cop will see a guy do something, even break the law, and he'll grab him and say, hey, John, you don't do that kind of stuff, man, and send him home. But then think about that same cop that lives, you know, 30 miles away and is driving down the street now, living in that, working in that community, that he doesn't know anybody, and he's scared, He sees someone do anything, he's going to arrest them.
Got to get him.
And throw him in jail. And listen, we're not judged the same. We're not.
Right.
It's not just the cops, but you know, the law, like they see us differently.
Yep.
And so it has to change. I really believe the reckoning of just understanding that this all has happened and admitting that it happened is a good therapy for this country.
Yes,
but
it is.
No one wants to do it. At least a lot of people don't. Some do.
Yeah.
Things are changing, but we still got to push it.
Great first step. What was your introduction to race and racism? You know, you and I have talked before this. Hopefully we can still get you for the project. We just finished my Black Mark project, but you faced a lot of racism in your life, and you said you grew up in a black community, so I'm guessing stepping outside of that community for the first time was when you faced racism?
Yeah, even earlier, Matt, like if you look at the map where I'm at in Chicago, Maywood is surrounded by like 5 very affluent white neighborhoods. And so it was almost like an electric wall, you know, like if you went outside of that. Proviso East High School I went to, when I was in grade school, young grade school, there was big racial riots. They were on TV every day because Proviso East bled into all those communities. And so there were big race riots. I didn't really understand them. I just knew that the blacks were walking on one side and the whites were on the other side, and the state police were in the middle of the street. And people were throwing bottles and all that. So that was my first introduction. But the first one I really got was when I think I wanted to say it was in the 5th grade, maybe in the 4th grade. My dad came home and told me he was taking me to a basketball camp. In 4th grade, going to a little kids camp. It was at an all-white neighborhood, one of those very affluent white high schools. And I walk in, I'm the only black there. And on the 3rd day, and I'm bragging, but I was destroying these kids. And the kid called me a nigger. And so, like, I lost it, you know, like, wait a minute, what? And so I tried, I threw a punch, you know. They wanted to kick me out, of course, because I was the troublemaker. My dad comes in to pick me up, but he has his police officer outfit on, so he got respect, you know, because here comes a police officer.
Right.
And so, you know, that night, I'm crying, I'm mad, you know, and my dad says, all right, let's get dressed in the morning. And I'm like, for what? He said, because you're going back to the camp. And I was like, what do you mean, Dad? I don't want to go back there. And he said, oh, no, you're going back. And you're just going to show him who this nigger is.
That's right.
And that's exact words that he used. And, you know, I did not want to go. But I went back, and the next 2 days, you know, for whatever a 4th or 5th grade, I wish I could remember the grade, could do, I did everything I could basketball-wise, I'll say that. And we won the whole thing, and I got the MVP, and the kids were cheering when I left. And, you know, it's funny. The only way those kids could have ever saw that, you know, he's all right. But it was by me coming back and taking the heat, you know, and so I did.
Mine was very similar. As a child, 3rd or 4th grade, moving from the Bay Area to Sacramento, where I was still in a predominantly mixed neighborhood. I went to an all-white school. So they wouldn't let me play nothing. Like, no, at recess, lunchtime, I couldn't play any sports. I was nigger this, nigger that. So I was chasing kids around, beating them up, fighting, until that one day I finally got an opportunity to play sports with them. And then they saw that I could play football, basketball, and baseball. And that was kind of the opening to, okay, well, shit, he's not that bad. He's just not the same color, but he's a cool dude. And I think through sports was my way of kind of, you know, allowing people to see who I was as a person and not just the color of my skin. So it's crazy because you just don't understand as a child, like, they don't like me. Why? Like, I've never met them. How come they don't like me? Strictly for the color of your skin. It's crazy.
Yeah, I did nothing wrong. But sports is amazing because the thing I love about sports is people want to win. Yeah. And they forget color quick.
Right.
And like the reason I love basketball is because there's a score. There's nobody up there like judging and then deciding, well, you guys win. Because it wouldn't go so well for us if that was true. You know?
Goddamn
the fact
right.
that we can see a clock. Yeah, so that's what makes sports so great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Doc, since we talking about Chicago, tell me this: how rough was Chicago in your upbringing?
It was rough, but you know, I don't think you know what, you know. Maywood was a little nicer than a lot of the other places, it was a lower middle class place. Maywood now is really rough. But it might have been, I remember, this is a true story. I want to say Michael or Sam Bowie, one of them, they all came. I made the Playboy All-American team in college. And we got to go to the Playboy match, and I won't tell any stories about that outside there. But we went to my house one night because my mom wanted to make everybody dinner because it was in Chicago. And I read years later, they said, "Man, where Doc lives." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So my point is, I think when you're growing up, it is what you have. You don't look at it as rough. Like,
right.
I mean,
that's all you know.
It's what you know. My best two friends are from Maywood, and shoot, man, I love growing up there. I couldn't have picked a better place.
Right.
I love it.
Right.
When did basketball become a part of your life?
Oh, early. My uncle Jim Brewer played, at Proviso, went on to go to University of Minnesota, played in the NBA. I think overall Proviso East High School has 11 NBA players from one high school that is not a recruiting, it's just local kids. From Mike Finley, I mean, we can keep naming them. But it was always in my mind. I've always wanted to be a basketball player, young. I didn't know I wanted to be a basketball coach. That came late, but playing was a no-brainer for me.
So he was younger than you, I think, but Benji Wilson, you remember hearing about him? Were you already in the league by the time his wave came through Chicago?
Yeah, I want to say I was probably about my 6th or 7th year, but we all knew each other. And they used to have the best summer league. The Chicago State, the summer league in Chicago was off the charts. That's back when all the NBA players could come. You can play in different summer leagues. Place was packed. It was free to get in. And, they would always put a high school team in. I got to play as a senior in high school against all the pros. My junior year, we actually made it to the finals.
Wow.
High school team. Now, that high school team had Mark Aguirre, Isaiah Thomas, Darrell Walker, Terry Cummins.
Man.
We were loaded.
What?
We were loaded. I think we played like Ricky Sobers and Reggie Theus and Artis Gilmore, a lot of the Bull players. So those are the best days. But Ben, you heard, I never got to see him in person, guys, but they said that kid was wonderful. And what made it so sad is growing up, we were protected. Like no one touched the athletes. And clearly that has changed, which tells you a lot of things have changed.
Unfortunate. So very decorated high school career, All-American across the board. What made you choose Marquette?
Close to home. I wanted my parents to be able to come to the games. I didn't want to go too close. DePaul is where, like, Isaiah, Mark, and I had said we'd all go. Mark went. Isaiah went to Indiana, so I always blame Isaiah ruined it. So, and then I wasn't going. It was just too close. So Marquette was close enough. And I knew Rick Majerus. Rick, who was a great coach. And,
great coach. Rest in peace.
I'd been going to his basketball camp since freshman in high school. So they pretty much had me from the start.
So hold on. So you, Isaiah Thomas, and Mark Aguirre were all discussing on going to DePaul?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you imagine
that?
Yeah,
almost happened. Mark and Isaiah, I thought Isaiah was going to go. And then he decided to go to Indiana. And Isaiah early on was recruiting me to go to Indiana with him because I was the following year. And then I saw how that was working, and I was like,
So who else was recruiting you, Coach?
I could have gone anywhere. But I ended up narrowing it down to Michigan. Here's a crazy story. Derek Harper and I got to know each other from the 5-star basketball camp. So Derek and I decided, let's team up. So Derek and I were both going to University of Michigan. Johnny Orr was the coach. Johnny Orr then calls us and says, hey guys, I just took a new job to Iowa State. And do you guys want to come? And I was like, no. That was the answer. And so Derek ended up at Illinois, and that's what changed to the Marquette part. But there was a time very good chance that Derek and I would have ended up at the same school.
Wolverines. What was it like at Marquette?
It was great. We were good. I think we made it to the Final 16. I would say in a lot of ways, Matt, Marquette, in some ways, kind of saved my life in the fact that I wasn't really into school, and then I got to Marquette and I met this professor that my freshman year that just decided, oh no, you're going to be a student, and he wouldn't let go. Like he wouldn't let go. And by the end of it, I was going to his house. He was my tutor, and I didn't like him early on. I'm not gonna lie, I actually couldn't stand him because I was like, no other student has to do this,
right?
And he kept saying, man, you have knowledge, you just got to learn how to write and talk, and so Dr. Wolf was his name, and I'm thank God that he came into my life.
So in college, who's some of the toughest opponents you faced?
Oh man, Louisville. Louisville was rough. They had the McRae brothers, if you remember that. Y'all too young.
No, I remember Rodney, right? Who was a brother, though?
Yeah, and he had the McRae brothers, so they were tough. Iowa was really tough. DePaul, heck, we had to deal with Mark. So we played Houston, and that's when they had Clyde, Rob Williams. You remember Rob Williams?
Yep.
Was really good. And then this African guy came in. And it was crazy. I'm telling you, he was a freshman and he hadn't played much that year.
Yeah.
And he came in like in the middle of the first half, he just blocking our shots. And I remember Hank Raymond and Rick Majerus at halftime were losing their mind. Like, this kid never plays.
Who is this?
And it was funny. It turned out to be Elijah one. So
Yeah.
That's
but
crazy.
he couldn't play. He just knew how to block everybody's shot. It's amazing how good he got and how quickly he did it.
What's funny is, like you said, all said and done, maybe one of the most skilled bigs ever as far as footwork and pace of play. And to think that in college it was just raw athleticism and how much he improved in a short amount of time.
It really is. You think about like fundamentally sound footwork. When you think footwork, you think him, Tim Duncan, Kevin McHale.
Yep.
And I don't know if you go further than that.
Right.
Really, not for bigs. It's crazy.
You could throw Embiid in that category. He got some hell of a footwork for a big man. I think he's the first 7-footer we see that can Euro step at full speed.
He got Euro step. He got the up and under. His up and under may be the slowest up and under I've ever seen. And it's so effective. Like the first couple of times in practice, I'm like, I know he just traveled. Because it's so slow, and then when you look at it, it's beautiful.
Arms.
But, he's got the same thing those two guys had, though. He can shoot.
Yep.
And he's figured it out, man. He sets that all up with that little up fake, and you got to honor it because he can shoot the ball. So
Absolutely.
he has great feel.
1983, second-round draft picks of the Atlanta Hawks. Take us back a little bit because the NBA is struggling with image in the early 80s. It's too black. There's too much drugs. Your first year is Commissioner Stern's first year. What was going into the NBA like in 83?
It was not a good league, guys. It was drug infested. Pretty nasty league when I first came in. Beer everywhere in the locker room. Guys smoking cigarettes. I tell you, it was crazy. We had, and I'm not going to use a name, but we had a meeting one time. Me and Randy Whitman with Mike Fratello, our head coach. He brought us in his room and said, "Hey, don't give this guy any money." And I'm thinking, I'm not giving anybody any money anyway. But it was a teammate, and he was worried about the guy using it for drugs, and so. But I tell you, it changed in like 3 years. It was amazing how quickly the league, the players changed and went to the whole other side of being pro players. You didn't see it anymore. You didn't hear about it anymore. But I tell you, my first 3 years, that was a rough league, really rough.
Teaming up with the young Dominique Wilkins. How great was Neek?
I love him. I love him. Still one of my favorite guys. You know, he was, man. He didn't get enough due.
He was a monster.
How good he was offensively. He was as unstoppable of a player that has ever played offensively.
Wow.
Could do everything. I mean, I've never seen a guy miss a shot and then tip dunk his shot.
Right.
You know, and when I was young in basketball camps, kids would always ask me, "Have you ever been dunked on?" And I said, "Every game by my teammate." You know, I don't know how many times I thought I was getting the offensive rebound, and then all of a sudden this guy is jumping over me. You know, he had this saying: a lot of people can go to the top floor, but very few people can go to the penthouse.
Yeah.
And that's where he used to tell me, like, when you throw the ball, throw it to the penthouse. Throw it where nobody else can go. And so he made me, you know, I had years where I had 10 assists. I had 26 assist games.
Wow.
And I was a good player, but that was, you know, I was good. But Dominique, you know, man, you could throw the ball anywhere, and he was going to go get it. So he made me really good.
So you guys are in the process of building a winner in Atlanta. You guys played the Celtics, Big Three, in the playoffs in 86 and 88. What were those matchups like?
They were brutal. I mean, they were just so deep and good. We had them, Matt, at one time. We were up 3-2 in that great series. And you remember the Game 7, the Dominique Bird series.
Shot for shot.
Shot for shot. And, you know, I think I ended up that game with 18 points, 15 assists, 6 rebounds. Randy Whitman was 12 for 12. I think there were 5 turnovers combined in that game. It was one of the most perfect play games, that Game 7. But at the end of the day, Mikal and Larry Bird that night was, he was unbelievable. And he was so clutch. Meek was just as clutch that night. It's just that Larry in the fourth quarter was unstoppable. But that Boston team is one of the greatest teams ever assembled. That front line they were tough.
I said Bird had 20 of his 34 in the fourth quarter. Dominique had 17 of his 47 in the fourth quarter, and they were going bucket for bucket down the stretch.
Oh, they was going at it.
Oh man, you know, it was crazy too because it's rare in a game you feel it. Like, you know, you guys have been in games where after the games people say, "Man, that was the most amazing game," but you were in it, and you're like, you know, I didn't feel that. I knew it was a good game.
Right.
That was one of the few games I was sitting there, this was a hell of a game right now. It was a hell of a game. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They say you battle with Danny Ainge, but you went to work on him later.
Yeah. I like Danny. You know, it's funny. I talk more trash to Danny. You know, people forget how hated Danny Ainge was.
Oh,
yeah, he was. He got under your skin.
They did not like him because, you know, Danny's an instigator. He really is. And who was it? Chanel 3 hit Danny Ainge when he was with the Sixers. And Chanel 3 got enough money from fans to pay for his fine. Think about that. That's crazy.
That's funny as hell.
And Danny loved it. That's who Danny is. Like, he wants to be the instigator. Danny's an instigator as a president and GM.
Yeah.
You know, he really is. Danny wants to instigate stuff because he's as competitive as a dude that I've ever been around.
I love Danny. He drafted me, so I forever love Danny Ainge. That's my guy.
No, he's the best. I tell you, our relationship is the way it should work. Like, if you want to win, because it's not just your team, it's not just the coach, it's not just the players, but when the coach in the front office is lockstep and everything, like Danny and I I'm telling you guys, we had arguments about players, and then we go to dinner. You know?
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be.
And we start laughing about it. And we had this thing like, you know, I'll give you one, and you give me one. And what that meant was every once in a while, Danny will come in with a trade. I said, oh, hell no, we're not doing that trade. No. Because Danny loves trades. Like, he every day he's talking about a trade.
He's a master at it.
That's funny.
But then I would say most of the time I would give in and say, let's do it. And so he was great to work for.
You often matched up against the best opposing guard. What was it like guarding guys like Jordan and Isaiah?
Ooh, Isaiah I grew up playing against. It's funny. We had some battles. We were ranked number 1 and 2 in high school, and they beat us in a big game. They knocked us out of my junior year. They knocked us out of the state tournament. We played that same year in a Christmas tournament. Think about this. I was in 1979. My brother sold a ticket for a high school game in 1979 for $500.
Oh, that's insane.
Think about that. That's how big that game was. It was like one of the biggest games ever because Isaiah was the number 1 player in the country as a senior, and I was the number 1 player in the country as a junior. We're from the same area. It was a war that night. His brother was intimidating the refs. Isaiah's brother was out on the sideline scaring the refs.
Birdie.
Which to this day I still believe played a part in the decision of that game. But and then Michael was just tough. Michael was ruthless. People don't get when we talk about Michael, the guys who played against him. Kobe approached his competitiveness. Other than that, I've never seen anyone more competitive. I remember his rookie year, it was my second year, and he got up to an amazing start. And we played him. I remember after the game, my first thought, there's no way he can play that hard all season.
Wow.
And 10 years later, he was still playing the same way. It was just, I was amazed how much he gave on the defensive end and the offensive end and his energy level at which he played. I don't know if there've been anything like that. So that's why, I hate comparing the generations because LeBron's going to end up having the greatest career ever.
Their rookie stats, Doc, are damn near the same.
They are. I still, for me, Michael's the greatest player ever. But LeBron is going to have the greatest career ever.
Yes.
And what he's doing right now is incredible. So it's unbelievable. But the toughest guy for me to guard was Magic. Because, Matt, you have the twins at home, right?
Yep.
And so when you're playing in the backyard and you're playing against them, you know how you look over them like they're little children and,
that's
just
how Magic,
looking over
that's,
the
that's,
shoulder.
how, that's how Magic was doing you?
That's how Magic did everybody. And I was a great defender, and I get up into him the first game, and he had that smirk he's looking over top of you. And it pissed me off. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, this dude is chopping me right now.
Right.
And there's not a lot you could do with it because he was so big. He was big, man. He is a big dude. And so for me, he was the hardest because of size, but Michael was the best I had to guard.
Tough. So as the 80s turned to the 90s, you had a quick stint with the Clippers, helping them reach the playoffs, and then off to New York. What was your thoughts being able to head to the Mecca and play for legendary, someone who started out west and then ended up as, the Mafia Pat comes to the Knicks? What was that experience like?
Changed my life. I never wanted to coach until I played for Pat Riley. I had done internships doing TV. That's what I was going to do, and then I played for Pat Riley. And just motivationally and how he has this ability to make you buy in as a group and hate every other team. It got to the point you didn't like anybody. Michael and I had a hell of a relationship, Jordan, until I played for the Knicks. And that was it. Huh?
Oh, now
it was over. It was over. But that's how, you play for Riley, man. He was the best, and we were good. We think about it, we had home court against the Bulls in that series.
You guys were up 2-0, then they won 4 straight.
2-0. And watching that documentary this summer was torture for me. We were up 2-0, and you remember they talked about it. They had a 5-day break, a 4-day break in between game 2 and 3, and for 4 days they talked about Michael Jordan and gambling.
Yeah, playing golf.
And even we knew then. I said, man, this is not good. This is not going to go well. Because all you're doing is poking the bear. And we wasn't doing it. Like I kept saying, like, it's one thing if it's us.
Right.
But it's the media, and it just kept going. And I think Michael had like 50-something game 3, game 4, he did it again. And we had him in game 5, man. You know, we did miss some big free throws, and then Charles had that 3 layup, play. But other than that, that's the toughest loss of my life. I would say, as a player, that was the most difficult loss that I've ever had.
So the next season, you guys go to the finals. You're injured. You feel like you're coming back and you're ready to play, and Riley doesn't activate you. How did that happen? What was the interaction between you guys after that?
Not good. The reason is, and it's called the Doc Rivers rule. Basically, back then you had to change. You had to give your roster before the first round of the playoffs, and once you set it, you couldn't change it.
Wow.
So the doctors were telling Rouse that there's a very good chance that I could be healthy by the finals, but they couldn't guarantee it.
What injury did you have at the time?
ACL.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so it was a big injury. And what killed, and Riley wrote about it in his book, was so it hurt our relationship because I was pissed. I was putting in the time. It would have been 7-8 months, so it had been very early to come back. It had been the earliest at that point. But I had done the work, and he calls me in, he makes that decision, and I was crushed, man, because I worked my butt off. But I kept working. We go through it. We keep going. We get to the finals, and by the finals, we have a practice, and I'm practicing now. And you can see Riley looking at me like, oh, man.
Damn it.
The guy's practicing now.
Right.
So, and, Starks goes 2 for 18 in that one game. I'm sitting on the bench in street clothes. That was a hard one for me because you play your life, at least I did. I wanted to win a title, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And sitting in street clothes, that was brutal. That was brutal for me. Especially with that team. That was such a great team. Anthony Mason and Charles Smith, Charles Oakley, John Starks, Greg Anthony. I mean, we had some dogs. That was a rough basketball team. And I just loved playing for them and with them.
How did you get on the coaching track after you left the Spurs?
Stephen, you probably know this story a little bit. I had no interest in coaching. And then I played for Rouse, and I start thinking maybe I want to coach. And when I retired from the Spurs, I got an offer from NBC to do the telecast and TNT. I chose TNT. I get a call from Pop. And Pop wants me to be the assistant for Bob Hill. But, it was more Pop's idea. Right. Than Bob's idea. And so
that's all that matters there.
I was smart enough to know that that's not good. So I turned that down, and then I did the TNT for the 3 years, and it was great because at that point I think Pop takes over, so I got to watch him do his job. I got an offer from Milwaukee in the second year, and I turned it down. I just wasn't ready, honestly. To coach, I just gotten out the league, but they offered me the job. I turned that down. And in any profession, if you turn a job down, it's like, man, we've got to get him. Right. I didn't do it for that reason. But that next year, I had 2 offers. I could have coached the Wizards. Wes Unseld was the GM. They offered me the job, or the Magic, and I chose the Magic because we knew they were going to rebuild. And my first year, I won Coach of the Year with guys that you guys would identify with. Yeah. That was, you guys played against that team. That was a hard Bo Outlaw, Ben Wallace. We didn't have, the problem with our team is when it got down the stretch, we had nobody to go to. But that team was so fun to coach, and it taught me. I couldn't have had a more perfect first year because we didn't have a lot of great offensive players. I had to think outside the box. I had to create ATOs on the spur of the moment. And that served me well for the rest of my coaching career.
How excited were you when Orlando traded for T-Mac that summer?
Oh, man, listen. So first of all, we had a chance. That was all free agency. We John Gabriel was the GM. He did an amazing job. Like, we had Disney involved. Some of the stuff we did when we brought those guys in. So T-Mac, I think Grant Hill was first, and Grant Hill said yes. Grant Hill said yes, by the way, when he got off the plane. So he could have got back on the plane. He was already coming. Then we brought in Tim Duncan. And Tim Duncan he basically said yes. There's that rumor about me and his girlfriend. That's not completely true. But John Calipari, I called John and I said, hey, man, I think we got Tim. And he said, you got him? And I said, yeah. He said he's probably coming, but he just needed to go back to San Antonio to have one more visit. He said, well, you lost him. And I remember Cal telling me that, and I was like, what? He said, listen, there's a rule in college. You don't let them off the campus until they sign. You never let them off the campus. And so I remember a 3-day period, I was panicked, like, oh my gosh. And he obviously went back to San Antonio, which for him was the right decision.
Yeah.
Then we had a crazy decision. For a second we thought we'd get all 3, but we didn't have money, but for 2. Think about that decision. If Tim Duncan had decided to come, we would have had to make a choice between Tracy McGrady, Tim Duncan, and Grant Hill.
Wow.
And back then, it probably would have been Tim and Grant because we didn't know T-Mac was going to be what T-Mac was at that point. So, but T-Mac, man, he was another one. He was natural. Could do everything, could score, could pass, could really defend when he wanted to. The thing that hurt T-Mac with us was Grant Hill got injured. I never saw Grant really. I think the 2.5 years I was with Grant, he played 10 games. Yeah. So
they said he only played 47 games between the 2000 season and the 2004 season. So in a 4-year span.
Yeah, that was rough because we had put so much money into that, and then not his fault. He was injured, couldn't play. Right. And that changed. It really changed my future, probably for the best when you look at it, because it led me to Boston. So at the end of the day, it was probably the best thing. But there's a lot of times in your life you think the worst thing is happening, and it turns out to be the best. Yeah.
I want to backtrack a little bit for the people who don't kind of know the story. You said with Tim Duncan and his girlfriend, T-Mac had said a situation where it was a situation that he said you or the team wouldn't allow family to travel, and that kind of deterred Tim's decision. You said that's kind of not how it went. Was it?
No, it isn't. But it's true. Like Tim, the Spurs were allowing families on board, and at the time we hadn't done that at all. Mm-hmm. And when we had our story, our talk, I said, no, I'll be open to that, just not every trip. Mm-hmm. And so that was not a big deal, but it was a factor. There's no doubt about that. But let me just say this. Tim called me and said, hey, Doc, I want to come. But one thing, my girlfriend has to travel. I would probably, especially back then, ask him, what seat do you want?
Right. You wanted to fly the plane too? What she need? Tell me.
Whatever works,
Right.
But that was, I'm sure that was a small factor because she did travel a lot. I guess I don't even know that with them. And Matt, you played for me. I had no problem with families traveling.
Very open with that. Yep.
But the problem with families traveling usually was the players would come to me and say, hey, man, such and such wife is traveling too much.
Hey, Doc, just let me say this from being Tim Duncan's friend. You were a great judge of character. We're going to leave it at that.
I knew exactly what you said.
Real quick before we get off this duo, in your opinion, knowing Grant, knowing what T-Mac turned into, how great could that duo have been if Grant could have been healthy?
Man,
I think we would have been unbelievable. And think about this, we drafted Mike Miller too. Mm-hmm. So
he won Rookie of the Year. He won Rookie of the Year that year, right?
Yeah. Yep. And Matt, we had one game, maybe, I think it was 1 or 2 games where we started Grant Hill, T-Mac, and Mike Miller at the 1, 2, and 3. Think about our smallest guy was 6'8".
Tough.
Oh, I remember we played in Minnesota and just destroyed them because all three could handle, all three could play, all three could shoot. It was beautiful to watch them play, and unfortunately, it never happened. So those two together, because Grant was such a unselfish player, he didn't need to be a scorer, and Mike was such a great shooter. I think the fit would have been perfect.
Well, I mean, you touched on earlier, people don't realize how good Dominique was. People, unless you're a real basketball, you don't realize how good Grant Hill was prior to his injury. He was on pace to be a top 10 player in the history of the game.
People were comparing him to Michael.
Yes.
You know, like I don't think anyone, I know, like when I talked to Austin, the great example, and Austin was there, but he was so young.
Doesn't understand.
You know, he remembered T-Mac only, you know, because T-Mac was his guy. You know, but when I used to say, man, Grant, and I also remember Grant was hurt.
Yeah.
You know, so T-Mac. It's amazing how many of the young guys, if you mentioned Grant Hill, they probably think, you mean the commentator on TNT?
Man, no,
they have no idea.
The killer from Detroit. That's what we're talking about.
That's what I patterned my game after Grant Hill.
He drew more fouls. You remember he drew fouls like that Grant Hill cut across the lane.
Yep.
I mean, it was amazing. He was good.
Being able to cross over at full speed, he was a dunk on you. 2003 playoffs against a tough Pistons team, up 3-1. Can't close it out. How rough was that moment? Like you said, you guys have developed amazing.
It was rough, but listen, we were an 8 seed. You know, people forget. Like, and I have the unfortunate history of losing 3-1 leads, but we were the 8 seed. Have you ever gone and looked at those two teams? Like, I always tell people on that, I should have got more credit for getting up 3-1 instead of losing 3-1. And that's a fact. Like, I want you one day to go look at the teams. That team, Detroit, ended up winning it.
Yeah.
You know.
They were loaded.
They were loaded. And I still to this day think I'm the creator of Tayshaun Prince because we had them on the ropes. And Tayshaun comes in game 5. You know, he hadn't played much.
Yep.
They didn't play him much at all. And then Rick Carlisle puts in Tayshaun Prince. And at the end of that game, like, he plays really well. And for game 5, he starts. Game 6. By game 7, he was like their go-to guy. It was crazy how quickly that changed. And, you know, they started double-teaming T-Mac, which they should. And we were throwing it to, you know, Andrew the Clerk and Gordon Girasak. We didn't have a lot of places to go, and we knew that going into series. But they didn't double team him early, and T-Mac single-handedly got us up 3-1, and then unfortunately he struggled from there, but not because of him. They just sent the whole team at him, and they dared somebody else on our team to beat him.
Yeah. So next season, you get off to a rough start. After 11 games, you guys part ways. Looking back on that Orlando experience, what was the most frustrating part about the whole thing?
Well, that we couldn't get healthy. I mean, no Grant Hill.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. We then traded Mike Miller, which turned out to be a terrible trade. Because of no Grant Hill, we were trying to get more players, right? So that thing set up the whole thing. It was time to go, honestly. And I don't say that often, but that next year we start out like 3 or 4 starters are out on a very below average team. You know, I'm being honest. I felt like when John Gabriel walked in my room, I was like, I hope he's telling me that's his last game. You know,
he was ready, huh? He said,
yeah, I was ready. And I think they were ready too. They need to go in another direction. And, you know, I always look back on that. Without that start, I wouldn't be here.
So you take a break, do a little bit of TV. What was it like getting a call from the Celtics?
Well, it was crazy. You know, the first day off my job, Isaiah calls me, and he wants to talk about New York. And I told Isaiah, no way am I coaching right now. I'm taking the rest of this year off. Gonna chill. I got to do the NBA with Al Michaels.
Wow,
you know,
nice.
Think about it. I was doing the NBA games with the great Al Michaels, who's become one of my best friends, and so that was cool. It's funny. Danny calls me and says he wants to talk. And I said, no, man, you got a coach right now. And he was like, Doc, it's an interim coach. I said, Danny, I don't want to be seen talking to you. It's just a bad look, So I was all concerned. So Danny, as Danny Ainge is, he says, all right, Doc, it's an interim coach. All right, so why don't let's meet, okay? And just talk, and we'll meet in a place where, like, nobody will know. And I said, sure. And I said, well, I'll do that as long as no one can see us. And I said, when? He said, right now, I'm at the Ritz out at Disney in a suite. I want you to, so he'd already flown in. And it was crazy. So I drive way out, we're in a room talking, and he says, I want you to be the coach. And I said, man, I don't know, Danny. You looked at that team back then, they were not very good. Mm-hmm. And he had this whole plan, like he kept talking about this plan. And so I said no. And then about, right when they fired the interim coach, he calls and say, hey, man, open your gate. That's how he called. Like, he didn't call and say he wanted to talk. He tells me to open my gate at my house. And I look out.
Popping up.
There's an SUV outside. And so I open the door, and Danny and all three owners walk in.
No heads up or nothing. No heads up at all.
Yeah, and I started laughing. I was like, Danny, man, you're an aggressive dude. He started laughing. He says, I know what I want. I got a plan. You're in the plan. And so I took the job, and it was, I'm glad I took the job, guys, because it was the Celtics. Not because they had a team that you thought you could win with at that point.
Right.
I took the job because, and I remember saying, if the Celtics, the Lakers, or the Knicks offer me a job right now, I got to take it.
Yeah.
Because those are the teams,
Historical.
For me growing up,
Absolutely.
You would have to take.
So what was Danny's vision that actually became your vision after that? What was he selling you on outside of the tradition of being a Celtics coach?
Yeah, we were going to rebuild. We were going to do it through the draft. We are going to do it through free agency. And it would take 3 or 4 years. He did say one thing, and he was right. It's going to be a couple tough years for you, but I'll protect you. Now, you guys know, like I know, that doesn't happen often.
Not at all.
It really doesn't. So I tell coaches all the time, I was one of the lucky ones. Like, we lost 18 games in a row. We were struggling. And I had a GM every single game, and I'm not exaggerating. After every game, if he wasn't there, he would call, I'm sorry, hang in there. I'm sorry, hang in there. Trust me, we're going to get this right. Because I was getting booed. There were games where people were wearing paper bags with Fire Doc, Fire Danny on. And I used to come in sometimes, I'm like, Danny, you're off scouting somewhere. You don't have to take this heat.
Right, every day.
I got to take it every day, every press conference. I remember Bill Simmons was pushing to get me fired because I wasn't playing Marcus Banks. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, don't say. Excuse me, Coach. I don't mean to interrupt you, but don't say that name too loud on this show. Matt has nightmares of Marcus Banks. We can't really tell you the story, but just know Matt has nightmares of Marcus Banks. Marcus Banks crossed him over, Doc, and he never forgot that. He's never forgot it.
Matt ran him down and tried to hard foul. That's what Matt did.
No, I should have. The way he crossed me and I tripped. But back to your story. Fuck you, Jack. Back to your story, Doc.
Yeah, so that was, and so it was crazy because we thought we were going to get the first pick in that lottery with KD and Greg Odom, right? And we're sitting in the room. I remember on the draft when they did the lottery. You're talking about a depressing moment. We lose all these games. We're struggling. We got Paul Pierce, so we know we got one. And then we get like the 5th pick. And I'm sitting around thinking, and the thing that I remember the most about that day, Danny was not deterred. Danny had a second. He was had already moved on. And he immediately said, we're going to get Kevin Garnett. We're going to go after Kevin Garnett. And I'm thinking, all right, well, Paul and Kevin, we got something going.
Definitely.
People don't remember that Kevin turned us down. Kevin had a no trade clause in his contract. And so we had a deal for Kevin Garnett on draft day. And Kevin said, no, I'm not coming. Y'all not good enough. And so we then did half of that trade and went out and got Ray Allen. And so then Kevin calls his agent and says, wait a minute, they got Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. I want to come to the Celtics. The problem is we gave away half the package to Seattle. And so I'm thinking, now we're not going to get Kevin. And I remember the day that I knew we were going to get him. I was golfing with Mikhail and Danny and Johnny Joe, our equipment manager. And Kevin and I are in the car, and Kevin says, man, I just want the best young big man available. I don't care what else I get. And right when he said that, I was thinking, we're going to get Kevin Garnett. Because Al Jefferson was the best young big man
He was nice.
in the league. And right when he said that, I just figured, I didn't know who else. I remember when Danny told me to trade. I don't remember it to this day. I just know Al was in it, and I'm telling you, it felt like 8 other guys. Like Danny gave them everybody.
Yeah.
And the only one that Danny would not give up was Rondo.
He wanted to keep. KG said he wanted to keep that African kid. We had
That's what he
KG on. We had KG on the podcast, and to back up a little bit, he said he was waiting for Kobe to hit him back. He said he was back and forth. He said he really wanted to go play with Kobe, but he said Kobe wouldn't return his calls at all. And then
I'm
I guess
glad.
right, actually, and then that's what led to you guys. But he said what he told us on the show was one thing. He's like, yo, y'all got to keep that African kid. Funny, it ends up being Rondo. So how important was it to keep Rondo from his point of view, and then what you guys saw Rondo's potential to be for that team?
Well, we don't win it without him. I mean, he was the orchestrator. And you guys been around Rondo a little bit, right? Rondo's a stubborn, hard-nosed, competitive dude.
Yes.
And to keep those 3 happy, you needed somebody that would MF him.
Yeah.
And it is rare when you see a guy in his second year
Right.
willing to tell Paul or Ray or Kevin, just back up.
Right.
I got this. You know, because he had supreme confidence. And so we needed a personality like Rondo to kind of keep those guys in check. And Rondo was an orchestrator, man. Like the best game caller. You know how they call in baseball, the catchers are great game callers? Rondo was the best game caller I've ever coached. Like he knew, he's one of the few guys I would give, you know, Matt, you saw that, both of you saw that play sheet I always keep in my pocket with all those. I would give it one to Rondo before every game.
Oh, wow.
And so when we came to the timeout, there were often times I'm about to say like slice twist. Rondo's already total. Like, he would already know it, or he would look at me and we'd say something like 15 down at the same time. Our relationship that way, you can't get better when your point guard and your head coach are locked as far as offensively and what you should be doing. It's a powerful feeling. It's rare. I don't think you get that very often.
We had the luxury of interviewing Rondo, KG, Paul. We just interviewed Perk last week, and you know Rondo was adamant about you shaped him not only as a player but a man, and then to hear what he did for you and be able to hold that team accountable. That's a dope for me. Interviewing, that's just dope because he told me how much you meant to him, and then you're telling me how much he meant to that team. Obviously, it was a special moment.
It was, and Matt, I remember when I first started coaching, I got a lot of bad advice from other coaches, honestly, that you don't get close with players. You don't get involved in their lives and I couldn't disagree with that more. I think you do. Now, unfortunately, you'll lose a relationship here and there because you're being honest with a guy. He's in a place doing something in his life. I don't get involved in the silly stuff, but I just get involved in the man stuff.
Right.
And I just tell them the truth sometimes. And sometimes that goes well and sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, it needed to be said. And, I'm glad I've done it. And with Rondo and Perk, because they were so young, man, like there were times you had to get involved. That's not the way you carry yourself. That's not what you do, And they didn't want to hear it. And you know both of them guys. But at the end of the day, what it did, it built a relationship that'll last forever.
Absolutely. So what is your message? Obviously, you got your own big three now. What is your message to that team? Because obviously on paper, you look incredible. The expectations are through the roof. What are you telling the guys at this point?
Right now, it's not really a message, man. It's work. Like,
Okay.
we have work to do. We're so far from being there. And so, but the biggest thing I would say, the one word with this group is accountability. Like, this team needed to be held accountable for not just their play, for their actions, for everything. And not just me holding them accountable. We got to hold each other accountable. We got to all be accountable. And I think we're not there, but we're working on it. We're much better.
I love it. Ubuntu, I probably pronounced it wrong. Tell me what that word meant and why it was so perfect for that team.
It's really perfect for everyone in everyday life. A person is a person through other people. I can't be all I can be unless you are all you can be. I can never be one of the greatest words in Ubuntu, and it's a philosophy. It's not just a word.
Okay.
Desmond Tutu and Mandela used it to unify Africa. And so when you go to Africa, they're trying to live an Ubuntu life. And one of the greatest words or meaning or parts in it is this thing: I can never be threatened by your good, because your good means I'm good. Right. You guys have been on teams where when one player starts being good, another player's threatened by it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The Clippers.
Yeah. You said it, not me. But you know what's funny, Matt? You notice I didn't use the Ubuntu stuff?
No, we didn't. We were a different group, obviously. Like you said, every group was different.
You know, it's funny, Sam, like, why won't you use Ubuntu with this group? I said, because we don't deserve it. I'm not wasting that word. You know, I'm not even using it. And,
right.
You know, and so that team didn't, unfortunately. Right. That team bugs me to this day.
Oh, man.
You and everybody else, Doc. You and everybody else.
Man, I tell you, and Matt, you probably heard about some of the meetings.
Yeah. Hold on. But let's get through we're gonna get there. Let's get through the Celtics because I want to hear about this. So after you get through, you pick the word, you guys are bonding with it. What are practices like? Because like I said, that was one thing that all four of those guys had mentioned, that practices were fucking wars.
It was awesome. I got to tell you on that word though. So I come up with this word. I get it introduced to me by a trustee at Marquette. I'm on the board at Marquette as a trustee, and another one told me I need to study this word, and I did. So I love it. So I decided the first day of practice is in Rome. And so I grabbed Big Baby, Leon Poe, I can't remember the other rookies, but those were two of them. And we sit in my room for about 2 hours. It's like study hall. And I told them they're going to present this word to the team, and they can see that I was not messing around. Like, it ain't a joke. Like, we're not going to have fun with this. You're going to present this. And I got to tell you, Leon Poe and Baby, that next day, they threw down. Like, they hit every point, everything. And so they call in on Celtics 1, 2, 3 and Ubuntu. And then practice starts. And this, Matt, the first practice, guys, this is when I knew. I said, we're on to something. Paul Pierce calls one of those superstar fouls, in practice. We're scrimmaging, second unit versus first unit. Paul gets fouled. That's a foul. Poe's like, no, you ain't getting that. And Paul says, it's a foul. Paul, I want the ball. And so me and Tom Thibodeau are sitting there, and Tibbs looks at me, you going to get involved? I said, no. So I want to see where this is going. and so they're arguing, and then Posey just grabs the ball to Paul's hands and inbounds it, and they start going the other way. and Eddie House makes a three and starts talking crap. You know Eddie House.
Yes.
Can't stop talking.
Tony Allen then picks Ray, goes down and dunks the ball and starts talking. And Leon Poe and Baby, they're on the first unit. They're like, no, we don't care who y'all are. Y'all have not beaten us. And the second unit destroyed them. That first, they beat them all three scrimmages.
Wow.
And on the bus back, they're all the talk because the phones wouldn't work, which I thought helped. We were in Europe. That next day, it was a devastation. The first unit, they beat the second unit so bad it was unbelievable.
I knew that was coming.
And every day it was back and forth, and you loved it. Man, if you got a second group, or if you have role players that have the ability to keep the stars accountable, that they understand who they are, but we ain't letting you get away with crap.
Right.
Man, you got a hell of a team. And that's what we had. Posey was huge on that team because of that.
What was it like having KG and his energy around every day? Because his energy is not just on the court, it's off the court, but particularly on the court. What was it like, his energy, and how infectious was that?
He changes the culture just with his actions every day. I've never seen a superstar that holds himself so accountable to the team. Mm-hmm. And every day, me and him have some MF days because I would try to take him out of practice. And he didn't want to come out of practice. He used to mumble, crazy stuff like
all the time.
Warriors don't come out of practice. Warriors don't come out of practice. I was like, all right, Warrior, well, you just got to sit down right now. I know Paul and them told you, so what he would do when you took him out of practice, he would start standing on the sideline and mocking what his guy was doing who was in for him. Like if the guy jumped, he would jump. If the guy slid, he would slide. He was running on the side of the court like he was running in the scrimmage.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting like, this dude is crazy.
This is it's a real nut.
Yeah. And I didn't buy, Kevin was one of those guys, from afar, you're like, there's no way this energy is real. Come on, man. Nobody's got this much energy.
It is.
And then after 2 days of practice, I was like, this dude is real. It's for real. And it was every day. I loved how he held everybody accountable. Don't mess up and shoot around, Matt. Now with KG. Oh, man. And then by the end of it, which I knew was hilarious, then Rondo started doing it.
Oh.
Rondo knew every play from 5 years ago. He knows everything. And with Rondo, with me and Tom Thibodeau, he couldn't wait for us to make a mistake.
He'd be on your ass, huh?
Oh, he loved it. It made his day. He would actually laugh, and shoot around. If I actually said, like Matt Barnes, he goes right one. No. He goes left. So it made you study. I got to get this right.
You had to be on
I
your
got to
shit.
get this little joker's going to be on me.
Absolutely.
So it was a great group to coach.
I have a question. From the outside looking in, from the three superstars, it looked like, as players when we watched, that KG was kind of the one that took a step back and allowed Paul to continue to be great, Ray to do what he does, and he just plugged any kind of hole you guys had on either side of the ball.
Yeah, I would say that's true, even though I thought Ray probably had to give up the most shots.
Yeah.
But KG was the easiest in that respect. But KG would do anything. I got on KG more, and I hope Paul didn't told you the story before the Cleveland game 1. I kept saying the word 20. I said, so 20. And the word is 20. And I kept saying 20. And everybody was looking at me. Kevin Garnett has to take 20 shots. 20 shots.
Has to.
20. I said it 19 times. And finally, the whole team started joining in. 20. And Kevin was pissed because, because we needed him. I think Antoine Jameson was a power forward, and that was an advantage for us. And so Kevin, that first couple of games went off, but we needed him to do that.
Right.
Because you had to get on Kevin to shoot because he was such a team player.
Right.
That he wanted to keep the ball moving and play the right way. And I used to tell him, Kevin, sometimes we're moving the ball to you.
Right. That's the point.
we don't want you to pass it once it hits you.
Right.
But he was great.
Yeah. So 66 wins that season, an elite defense. But when you guys get to the playoffs, it's wartime. 7.
Yeah.
The Hawks take you to 7. The Cavs take you to 7. LeBron had just coming off taking his team to the finals. That game 7 versus Cleveland. Talk to us a little bit about that.
That was a war. Our team hadn't been tested. Matt, we didn't lose 2 games in a row that whole year. So I was worried going into playoffs. Someone asked me before the playoffs started, what's your one concern? I said, we've had no adversity. You know, usually you have to go through something. And so that 7-game series against Atlanta was exactly what we needed. Because we lost 2 games to Atlanta because of the city of Atlanta. I'm just going to stop there. But I'm just
Jack
telling
knows.
you.
I live here, Doc. I know.
Yeah, the city of Atlanta is undefeated, man. It's unbelievable. So we learned that lesson. Like, man, you got to do your job. Then we get to defending champs and LeBron, and we get to that game 7, man. Paul Pierce and LeBron. If you ever get time to watch a game, those 2 guys, they were going at. They were matching. It was very similar to the Dominique Bird game. I mean, they were matching play by play, and the 2 biggest plays. One was a high school blockout on a jump ball. They had inside position, and LeBron didn't box out Paul, and Paul dove and got it in front of his legs. That gave us the ball. And then what we call the greatest wonder of the world happened. Eddie House passed the ball. You know, he passed it to P.J. Brown, and P.J. Brown made a big shot. And think about that, how fortunate you are. P.J. Brown, over All-Star break, had retired.
Yep.
All-Star break is in New Orleans, and we decided to get in our car and go knock on his door and go get him. And we went and got him. So he was big for us.
You get Detroit in 6. What was memorable about that series?
Well, Detroit was the team to beat. Like, going into that season, we knew for us to make it to the finals, and what was crazy, number one, we knew it was the Lakers. The Lakers were going to win the West. Everyone knew that year. Like,
Cole was on a mission.
Yeah, he was on a mission, you know. So we were thinking, okay, we got to beat Cleveland, and we got to go through Detroit. We had lost a home game in the playoffs, and then game 2, Detroit comes in and beats us. Then we go back and beat them in game 3, and then close it out in game 6 on their floor. It was funny, Matt, like, and Jack, y'all both know this, but it's funny how people set these, like with the Clippers. I remember everyone said, you got to get to the Western Finals. I was like, that's it? That's not what I want.
No, you got to get
The
the
champion. That's not the goal.
Like, exactly. So it was funny, like, I didn't even stand on the stage. That's how, like, single-minded championship. If you ever look back, when they're giving us the silver ball, I didn't stand on the stage. I just kind of stood off. Because it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't,
right.
So, like, I don't know why, but I remember coming in and after, you know, because you're supposed to celebrate too, because you got to enjoy the journey.
Right.
So I come in and we're all celebrating, and I say, guys, this is great, but we don't want a silver ball. We want a gold ball.
The gold
That's
ball.
it. So let's enjoy this moment, but it ain't about the silver ball.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think when you're on that journey, for people on the outside, they're looking at how great that is, and that's an accomplishment, but it's not what you want. It's not what you're in it for. And so that's what that felt like to me. Like, it was awesome knowing we're going to the finals. I didn't know what to expect. You know, I was a coach that had never coached in the final. I didn't know, like, what to expect. I just knew it was the Celtics and it was the Lakers, and I'm not kidding. It's exactly who we wanted to be there. Like, we wanted the Lakers to win the West. We wanted them to win the West. We wanted to be us and them.
Absolutely. So now you find yourself in the 2008 finals, smack dab in the middle of history, you know, obviously with the 2 franchises and their winning ways, playing against Kobe. I want to jump right to game 4, down 24 in the 3rd quarter. What was that huddle like when you guys flipped that switch?
That was the best moment maybe in my coaching career as far as just feeling, because I really believed. I kept telling Tibbs, like, we're going to win this game. I kept telling Tibbs, I got to find the right combination. I bet I said that word. I got to find the right combination. Something's not fitting here. Something's not working here. And we kept, if you watch that guy, I kept changing lineups because we couldn't score. And something, I couldn't figure it out. And then we fell on that Eddie House, Paul Pierce. We moved Paul to the 4. And took off that game. And the best moment for me was Jack Nicholson sitting next to me when we came back, because we're down 24, and I kept saying, You know how coaches do, cut it in 6, get it to 16, get it to 12. When it got to 6, the game was over.
You already knew it.
You could feel it. And the only thing that I remember, about that game that's funny is Jack Nicholson kept yelling, Doc, Doc. He just kept calling my name. And I finally turned around and he said, we are dead men walking.
That momentum is serious, for real fans and obviously coaches and players. You feel that shit. Like the casual might not understand, but that momentum is everything. And if you could walk a team down in those kind of situations, it's tough to come out of.
Yeah, and then after that game, the thing I knew, I didn't know because you never know, but the first thing I remember them saying, I think it was Lamar Odom, we got to play physical like them. And right when I heard that, I remember saying that this series is over. Because you are what you are.
Absolutely. You're not going to change in the finals.
Yeah, and you're going to start playing like us,
right.
You're not beating us.
Absolutely. That's your game.
That's who we were. We had some physical, just naturally. It wasn't taught. It was who they were.
Dogs, right? Game 6, you're fortunate enough to close out at home. From pregame to the time the confetti fell, what was the energy and mindset of the team and yourself?
Well, we didn't have a lot of time. If you remember the whole story, that we both took off that next day at the same time. The Laker plane takes off.
Yeah.
And then our plane is broke. Then the family plane is broke. Now, come on, y'all.
To set up.
We in L.A. And both of their planes take off. So we're on the ground for like 5-6 extra hours.
Damn.
And finally, we land at 1 a.m. on the day of the game. And so it was probably one of the best decisions I made as a coach. We didn't have shoot around. Think about that. For Game 6.
Game 6 of the finals.
NBA Finals, we didn't have shoot around. I said, hey, guys, I'll meet you in the locker room 3500 o'clock, just like normal. And we showed up, and it's the first time and probably the only time that I walked in the locker room. I said, guys, we're not going to win tonight. We're going to win by a lot. We're going to play the perfect game tonight. This is the night that we show them who we actually are. And I had the benefit of that game of being able to know we're going to win the game with 9 minutes. I mean, we were at 40.
Right.
But the funniest story in that game, we were up 40 or 38 with like 5 minutes left, and I hadn't subbed. And Tom Thibodeau, of all people, who never subs,
right,
comes up to me and was like, because he used to say, "Boss man, hey, boss man, you gonna sub?" And I said, "When Kobe goes off the floor,
right,
I'm gonna sub. But until Phil takes Kobe out, I'm not taking our guys out." Which tells you what you felt about Kobe.
Hell yeah.
We're
ain't over till it's over.
Like this dude, man, I'm not taking any chances. And then when Phil finally subbed and we subbed everybody out. And that was, listen, man, you guys all won. There's no better feeling than winning. It's like you have a blood transfusion with your teammates and with your franchise. And it's why you should play sports. It really is. It's the only reason. I mean, to make a living is one. And then the other one is, man, if when you got a chance to win and you don't, you're going to look back on your career as a player. If it's nothing other than the team is better, it's going to always bother you. Yeah. And I don't care who you are. At least for me, that's what it would have been.
Absolutely. I remember, we were fortunate enough to get one of Kobe's last interviews, and he said that series right there to him was the series that always haunted him, that would make him sick, the fact that you guys handled him like that to win the championship.
I remember talking to him right after the game, and he's crying. He's got tears in his eyes. And I could feel his energy, like literally feel it. I told a couple guys after the game, and it was not an energy of sadness. It was an energy I'm going to get you guys.
I'm going to see you. That was his whole goal.
Yeah. It was not I told a couple of our guys, I said, that was not we lost. It was,
I'm going to see you motherfuckers.
I'm going to goddamn destroy you. You can feel it. Like you can feel it.
Yeah.
And, he got us back in 10. But that was obviously the hardest loss for me as a coach. Losing Perk, having a lead in that game.
Yep.
I'm not going to say anything, but that second half was called differently. I'm over it. I'm over it. But come on, man.
Yeah. So getting there. I mean, obviously the next season, with the basketball guys, you guys have a small window to repeat and win as much as you can. You guys get off to a hot start. KG goes down. What is the thought when KG goes down in February?
Only thing I remember is we had the best record. I think we were like 23-4, 23-3. Like we were rolling. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I see it still. Kevin was just running down the court in Utah with no one around and grabbed the back of his knee. And I just remember Eddie Lacerda, trainer, was like, oh, God, that's not good. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, an injury with no one around is the worst injury you can have.
It's a real injury.
Because that's a real injury. Mm-hmm. And so, Kevin never came back that year. The fact that, we almost made it to the Eastern Finals still without KG tells you about this team. But Kevin was never the same. And I truly believe if he had stayed healthy, we'd have won at least 2, maybe more. But he was never the same. Probably about 75% of himself from that point on.
That's tough.
And he never had the endurance. That's the thing that stood out to me when he returned. His endurance was never the same. So, it changed your fate. But listen, just to be able to coach Kevin was worth it.
Jumping ahead to 2010, you guys are the 4th seed. Obviously, a chip on your shoulder from the year before. Everyone counted you guys out. You guys take care of business. You guys in LeBron's run in Cleveland for a little while. I remember I'm on Orlando at the time, and we're sweeping through the playoffs. We're 8-0. We had beat the shit out of Jack and his team in the first round. We handled Atlanta, and then I remember particularly Stan Van Gundy. He's just like, we can't be fooled by their record. They're a veteran team. They've won. We got to make some changes. And we end up changing up our whole approach, offensive strategy, plan, go-to. So we're kind of in shambles. You guys come out and just jump on us. And, obviously we were able to take it to 6 games, but we never were able to really find our footing in that series. And that leads to the rematch in 2010 between you guys and the Lakers. Talk to us about that. You talked a little bit about it, but talk to us about that.
Well, we knew it was a hell of a series, and we knew they were going to have a different mindset. Like the first time in 8, we were so much more physical than them. And you could tell in game 1, Paul Gasol, the way he was playing, they had home court advantage. They were as physical as us, not probably to the 100%, but they were different. And you knew it was going to be a war. And it really was. The series played out like we thought it would. We got up 3-2. I thought game 6 was the game. We were playing well. We got up, and then Perk got hurt. And just hurt Perk was more than a player for us. Certain guys, man.
It's not always the numbers. It's not always the numbers.
I guess it'd be like Draymond Green getting hurt for Golden State, and it just hurt our spirit.
Speak to his importance, really, though, because I think Perk, we know as players what he did and what he meant to basketball, but I think, he takes a lot of heat now because he wasn't a guy that put up big numbers, but I know how important he was to chemistry and leadership and that kind of stuff, and I'm glad to hear you say that because, losing him in Game 6 obviously was huge for you guys.
Oh, it was huge. He was our enforcer. He allowed Kevin to be Kevin. Kevin didn't have to do any of the dirty work because Perk did it all. For him. He was a phenomenal defender. He rode. He did all the things you asked him to do, and he was such an intangibles player. Perk's I was honest with Perk. If I ever call your number, it was a mistake. I'm not going to you, but you're going to get it anyway. You're going to get points. You're going to run the floor. We're going to throw it to you. So Perk did everything you asked him. He was the perfect player to have on a championship team. And, he was over himself. He wanted to win.
Right.
It's what drove him. And so he wasn't worried about himself. And losing him and his toughness and his spirit. Think about it. The Lakers had 23 offensive rebounds in Game 7. You're not winning that game.
No.
Right.
And we still could have won.
But that also doesn't happen with Perk in there, though.
No, that's not going to happen with Perk's in there. And then Perk also is not just going to allow some of the stuff. Like
You're going to put somebody down.
Yeah, that's just Perk, you know. And so, you know, listen, that was a tough one because that was a close team. Rasheed Wallace was on that team, gave us everything that he had. You know, it was one of my big regrets. Like, Rasheed never got in great shape that year. And, you know, if I could redo that, I would have made sure he was in better condition because it came down. I mean, he was such at that age where you had to be careful.
Yeah.
You know, but it came down to us needing him for 35 minutes, and he didn't have it. And that changed the fortune of that game.
Looking back on it, obviously Lakers go on to win that championship. Looking back on it, obviously, you know, rest in peace, Kobe. We're just a little bit over a year from losing him and Gigi and everyone else. What was it like competing against him? You said it in the first championship run, like, fuck being up 30 until Kobe goes off the floor. I'm not subbing. So what was it like going at him twice in the finals?
He was the perfect opponent. Like, he was a guy, like, if you could, as a kid, could script the villain, the opponent you wanted to go against.
That's him.
But that's Kobe. Like, you knew if you didn't bring it, he won. Like, you knew that. And so it just made you prepare. It made you get ready. And you guys have been around him and played with him. You know, it's more than just play. It's mental too.
Mental approach. Yep.
Like, you have to have mental toughness to play against any game that Kobe was in. And you had to sustain his greatness and be okay with it. I thought Ray Allen, like, Ray didn't get enough credit. Ray had no issues guarding Kobe. You know, whether Kobe played well or not, Ray was. The next day, Ray showed up, was ready again. And you need that type because Kobe is. Olajuwon was one. They can take your soul away. Like, if you don't watch it in your series with a Kobe Bryant and a Michael Jordan, a LeBron, they're playing so well, it takes your goodness away. Right. You know, and then you don't play well anymore. We saw that with David against Olajuwon in that series with San Antonio. I mean, David played good in that series, but Olajuwon was so dominant that it just kind of took your spirit away. And Ray was phenomenal. Ray showed up the next day ready to go. It was awesome.
Summer through 2010, LeBron and Bosh go to Miami to build their own big three. What's the reaction from you guys, you know, knowing you guys are getting a little bit older, knowing you guys, you know, did it a different way, but they created it through free agency and talking to each other and jumping. What was your guys' thoughts about them being able to create their big three in Miami?
It didn't bother us. You know, I knew, listen, I've been around the league. I knew the clock was ticking, and it was really ticking. You know how it started speeding up at the end. That was our clock. And I really thought after 10, we may have just jumped out of that window, you know. But we were still so tough-minded. And we got up 3-2 on them. Yep. You know, not the first year, but the second year that we played them. And that was even crazier because we were older. We didn't have a great team then. But it was our mental toughness, literally just almost beat them. And then that's the game to me, LeBron, game 6. Yes. In the Garden.
Yep. Unreal.
Like, you know, it's funny. You go back and you look at your game plan. Your game plan wasn't LeBron making threes from everyone. You know, and he did. And you got to give it to him. And we went in Miami and almost beat them in that game 7. So they were just tough. You know, that team, it's a great example. You can put a team together, but you got to become a team. In the first year, Miami, they lost because it was all about those 3 guys.
Right, it wasn't a team.
It wasn't a team. They didn't include the Chalmers and everybody else, you know. But that following year, they did, and that's when they won it. So the biggest thing with LeBron, I'll share this, is when we played him in Cleveland, LeBron just showed up and played games. When we played him in Miami, LeBron knew the game. He knew our calls. He knew what we were running. So he had a change in his approach. And I don't know who got to him or whatever, but it was when you saw it, you knew everybody was in trouble.
So they go on to win that in a tough game. Did you guys kind of know that was the beginning of the end for you guys in 12?
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty obvious. Danny was already talking about it. I almost stopped coaching in 11, I think. At that point, it was 7 years in a row in Boston, or 8 years in a row in Boston, 5 years in Orlando. And I was thinking, man,
it's a lot.
I need a year.
Right.
I do. And what happened, I think the lockout was a savior. It was awesome.
It was a little break until Christmas. Yeah, we were off till Christmas.
Until Christmas. Yep. And that gave me a break. And I was so fortunate because that was Austin's freshman year in college. So I got to watch every one of his games up until, after Christmas, which was cool for me. And it kind of gave me some more juice. So I went back and coached that one more year before leaving.
So Ray's departure in 2012, was that a surprise to anyone, everyone? Did anyone know? Talk to us about that.
It wasn't a surprise. It was a surprise, but it wasn't a complete surprise. I knew Ray wasn't happy. This is where coaching gets tough. And I think players will never understand it unless they get into this, is where you got Ray, you got Rondo, you got to coach them both and like them both. But each guy wants you to like the other one more and like the other one less. And so you're kind of stuck. Matt, you saw a little bit about that with me in LA. And it just puts you as a coach in such a difficult position because we wasn't getting rid of Rondo.
Yep.
And so it just got to the point where Ray was out. And I was pissed too because he was going to Miami.
Right, of all teams.
Of all teams, not them.
Yeah.
But it was funny. Like, I got over it quick. Like, at the end of the day, we go into Miami. I get up and make sure I talk to him, give him a hug. Hadn't talked to him since at that point. And our guys gave him the cold shoulder. And I told him after the game, I said, man, y'all got to get over that, bro. This guy helped us win the title. They're still not over it.
I was about to say, no one we talked to was over it.
No, it's crazy.
No.
It's crazy. I tried to get involved last year for Paul's retirement. I tried to get involved. I thought I had Ray talked into coming. He was worried, about getting booed, which he would not. Fans would. And then Rondo and them got to doing their stuff again, and I just
you had to step away, honestly, respectfully step back, huh?
Yeah, I said I'm out of this, and I got to coach these guys here. So I got out. I jumped out, but I do hope, man, that they got to get it together.
At one
really
point,
do.
absolutely.
They meant too much to each other.
Yeah. Summer 13, it's time to rebuild. KG and Paul go to Brooklyn. You get traded to the Clippers. A coach being traded. How did that trade come about for you?
Well, it was crazy. If you guys remember the whole contract thing with Sterling, I was so concerned because I'd heard from every coach about how he backs out of deals, that he wouldn't pay coaches. And so, I literally had in my contract that if any contract dispute happened, David Stern had to be the mediator. Because what Sterling had done, I guess, in the past was tie up deals in court because he knew he was a wealthy guy. He could tie it up forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, like I was telling you guys, like, if I was doing that, like, what the hell was I thinking about? Logically now. Like, what was I thinking about? And what I was thinking about was that team. They were loaded.
Yeah.
They were loaded. And I remember getting there after it all finished. And within a week, we have this J.J. Redick thing. Well, the first thing I was told when I took the job that we wasn't going to keep Bledsoe. And see, I thought starting Bled and Chris would have been an interesting backcourt. But they were saying, no, he's going to want to get paid. We're not going to pay him. And so we're going to trade him. That's the one thing you have to do. And so I said, okay. So we ended up doing this deal for J.J. Redick, who I thought fit the team really well. And the deal was done. J.J. had agreed to go to Minnesota. He backtracked to come to us. We talked him into changing his mind. Deal's done. I fly back home to Orlando. I land, and Andy Roser calls me and said the J.J. deal is off. And I said, what do you mean it's off? Sterling changed his mind. See, he can't change his mind. we just agreed to a deal. You can't do that. And so he said, Doc, because and Matt's been around enough to know, Andy's not fighting down in Sterling.
Not at all.
Nothing. So it leaves you to have to fight him. And so I call him up. We are literally, I'm in the garage in Orlando going back and forth with my owner. I've never had that. And I'm screaming. And finally I said, listen, I quit. I'm out. You're not going anywhere. I won't allow you to go anywhere. And I said, I quit. And I hung the phone up. And so I drive home, and I remember getting home, telling my ex at the time, I said, I don't think I'm the coach of the Clippers anymore. and I call my agent and tell him the same thing. And within 30 minutes, Andy calls me, great job. The deal's done. Now, I don't know to this day why the deal was done. It was just done. Sterling had a problem with JJ because he was white. Think about that one. He had a problem with JJ because he was white.
Because he was white. He didn't want to pay a white dude, Jack. The shit was crazy, bro.
Yeah, he didn't like white players for some reason. And I was like, oh, my gosh. So that was the start of my Clipper career.
How was it? I mean, like I said, I'm right in the mix with you. How was it building with Chris individually and then building with Blake as well?
It was just different. They both were so different. Chris is the most competitive guy you could be around, and so Matt, I guess if I could look back, like there was damage done already before I got in there, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And I heard about it, but when you get in it, you see it, but it was such a passive aggressive. It wasn't outward.
It was weird, yeah. It wasn't weird. It wasn't in your face kind of shit. It was behind sneaky shit.
Yeah, and that's what killed me, because you would have a talk with them both, everything's good. You would talk to them both, everything's good. It was a difficult group because they both are extremely competitive. They definitely had something, there was things that had happened before I got there that I didn't know, that you learn. And my job was to come in and try to get them to see past themselves.
Right.
And, you both have been on team. You don't have to love each other.
Nope.
You just have to figure out a way of giving each other room to play.
Coexist and respect each other.
Coexist. I mean, remember Bill Russell, when I was in Boston, said the deepest thing, he said, if I'm the only one that can be great on the team, you can never win.
Right.
Yep.
I have to be great and give everybody enough room so they can be great in their space too.
Yep.
And that was it just, it was there, and it was so passive aggressive that I would have loved whenever somebody on any team, you don't like each other right at that moment.
Talk about it. Get it out.
Call them an MF and move on.
Yeah. Our shit was more sneaky, subtle. It was just it never came to a head, but you can tell good times, bad times, there was always some kind of friction there that would hold us back.
And you know what, for me as a coach, because my job, Matt, is I feel like part of your job is to be a problem solver.
Yep. Right.
And so it was difficult for me with that because you couldn't figure out what the problem was. It was the conversations that I had individually, as a group, as a team, it was just, there was always this cloud there. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Every day in practice, it felt like it was combustible.
Something, anytime it can blow up. But what I saw was, it was Blake, from the outside looking in, because I was with the Lakers before, so it was Blake's team, and Blake kind of put him on the map, and then CP came, and it was automatically handed to CP. So I know how that kind of caused some stuff. And then DeAndre's rise. DeAndre was just the fun, kicking homeboy, great rebounder, blocker, did all the dirty work, and then DeAndre started getting some shine too. So now there was 3 shining parts on our team. You know what I mean? And I just think that was, for some reason, that was an issue.
I kept telling DJ, you be great. Stop waiting. Mm-hmm. I kept saying, stop waiting, bro. You should be Bill Russell. Mm-hmm. And so you remember, Matt, I declared him the defensive captain of the team.
Yep.
And you know, like outwardly you think that's a great move, and it was. It really helped DJ, but it also gave DJ a voice.
Yep.
And the problem with that was now, you know, Chris has a voice, and Blake has a voice, and DJ has a voice. And so it was so interesting, that group. I remember, you know, Dave Severance, who was there before I was there. So I remember late in the year, the first year, because I said, man, we got to get this team together. We got to get to, and I remember him saying, Doc, it's 80 times better than last year. And when he said that, it scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, if you think this is better,
Right.
but I will say this about that team. That first year, Matt, we were ready.
Definitely.
When we got to that Oklahoma series, that game that we threw away, like literally, we played at a point in that game which was unbeatable.
Yep.
And that loss opened up all the wounds again.
Yep.
I mean, Chris, he's been the perfect player, just had 3 of the worst minutes
Ever.
I mean, even things that people didn't know, like we were supposed to foul. You remember? He didn't foul, and then they got. That's how Durant got the. There were more mistakes made than people even knew.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, and then he was crushed.
Yeah.
He was crushed. But I don't know what it did. Like, I remember that next day in film, I was going to show the film so we can just go over it. And I walked in, and y'all don't even, you probably don't know this to this moment. I walk in the room, and Chris has got tears in his eyes.
I didn't even realize.
And so I walk in, and we're going to watch film, and I motioned to our video guy, no film. Couldn't show it. I just felt like, this may go a bad place. That was the start of the fall.
Yeah. I want to back up real quick,
moment.
though.
Hey, Matt, I was there 2 weeks, and I felt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt it. I was there short. You know, I would have stayed longer. Remember, Chris Paul broke his hand, so y'all had to make a trade and bring another point guard in. But I felt it the time there, and the time I was there, it seemed like the captains was JJ and DJ, because everybody got along with those two guys, but the other two stars were basically spaced apart.
And there were a lot of guys like having to play like double agents. You know,
Try to work both sides. Yeah, I was the mender between the way Chris, because sometimes I love Chris. We're still great friends. He lives around the corner. Our kids are best friends. But Chris is old school, so the way he comes off is sometimes abrasive, but he means well. But sometimes with DJ and Blake, I'd be like, well, all Chris is trying to say, and I would just frame it a different way. They're like, all right, and go do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it was just.
Chris didn't. His delivery wasn't great.
Yes. Doc, you can agree what he was trying to get across was right. His delivery was just off, and that was the fucked up part.
Intentions.
So back in the day, that wouldn't have been an issue because you can yell, cuss, do whatever, but it was different with this next crop of guys. Like you had to kind of almost talk to them a certain way, and I was just like, come on, y'all, what the fuck?
Things have changed. Like, when I played, I walk in the locker room, Dominique, you suck tonight, bro. Like, you got to pick your play up. I mean, we ain't winning without you, and he would tell me, you right. That's how we talk to each other.
Right, different.
But that also was pre-cell phone, everybody getting involved
image,
in your
social
lives.
media,
So,
I want to backtrack real quick, Doc, and touch on the Sterling situation. Obviously, we're in the playoffs, and like you said, we were ready that season, and we were the team that, the last team that knocked the Warriors off before they went on their run. So we're in the midst of the playoffs, and the Sterling situation happened. And I don't know if you get enough credit for the way you handled that shit. That shit was obviously couldn't have come at a worse time. We feel like we're a championship caliber team, and it just puts us in a terrible position. Walk us through that evening and the next day, what you were telling us and how we were going to figure this out as a team.
Yeah, that was a gut punch because we were rolling.
Yep.
We were rolling. And you know what, Andy Rose, again, like, and stuff y'all found out about, he tells me this video is coming out, but it's not a big deal. And so he says, I have it if you want to watch it, but it's not a big deal. So I'm like, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to watch it. Seth comes running into our coaches meeting, Matt, 5 minutes before it's going to come out on ESPN. He said, Doc, you got to come watch this video. And so while I was watching it, it was airing. It was too late. And I'm pissed, Matt. Like, I am seething. Probably the most upset I've ever been, like, coaching a team at someone. So I'm seething. And Seth is there. He's like, you got to calm down before you call. And so I call Andy 25 times before a meeting. He wouldn't answer the damn phone. So when I walk in that meeting with you guys, I hadn't talked to anybody. I had no one to talk to. And so, and you know, like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I didn't know, I didn't want to wear my Clippers shirt.
Right.
I called a couple of the coaches. I was like, man, I don't know if we should wear a shirt, but if we don't wear it, like, so, I mean, think about the decisions we're talking about. A damn shirt.
But on the fly, though, like you said, in the middle of a play, on the fly, like you said, we had no preparation for none of this shit.
On the fly, and then I walk in with my shirt. Y'all all got y'all's off. and y'all are shitty. Like, the whole team is you can see guys got their arms folded while I'm talking. And that's when I finally had to say, bro, listen, y'all, I'm Glenn Rivers from Maywood. Like, I'm mad. And the only thing I wanted, man, and I swear, like, God was guiding me. Like, the first thing I thought was about all of y'all, you, DJ, was please don't let them say something
crazy
that then they become the story. Because the worst thing, and like, you guys felt this a little bit in the George Floyd thing. Stephen, you definitely went through this. People react more on the response.
Yes, than the actual
than they act
situation.
on the guy who actually did the crime.
Absolutely.
Like, we're stuck. Everybody wanted to know what the Clippers were going to do. And I kept thinking, the Clippers?
Right.
What about Donald Sterling?
That's the
Right.
league, right. Yeah.
Why are we worried about what we're going to do? Let's focus on Donald Sterling. And so that thought kept telling me, let's have one voice.
Yep.
I'll be your voice. Whatever you guys tell me to say. You remember you guys sat there and basically gave me what I was supposed to say. And so you guided me.
Yep.
And that was really important because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know exactly what to say. And I remember when we did that and we got on the bus, you remember we went to Oakland to to San Francisco, University of San Francisco.
Yep.
Did you, and I've never asked you this, I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Like, I didn't think.
I didn't.
You either, right?
Because I mean, I shared my story. I had been through real racism. You know, my school vandalized by the KKK, burning down buildings. To me, it was just another idiot who got caught talking bad about black people. But like I said, for those who haven't experienced anything like that, like, some of the guys took it hard. But to me, it wasn't like. And you know, and you and I had the same. We were never playing for this dude anyway. We were never playing for Sterling. We were playing for us.
That was my point to you guys. Like, when we're growing up talking about winning a title, Donald Sterling wasn't in our dream.
Right.
We wasn't thinking about that fool.
Right.
So, to me, but when we pulled up, and you remember seeing all those trucks?
Yeah, it was crazy.
I was shocked.
Yep.
Like, I thought it would be a big story for ESPN and sports.
It was a world story.
It was a world story. When we walked in that gym and I saw, like, Tom Brokaw,
It was
and
crazy.
I'm like, oh, man, you remember y'all giving me what to say, and I was supposed to do it right away, and I went over in the corner.
All that went out the window.
For a half hour. I had to gather myself. I was like, oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I got to make sure I got to represent these dudes. I got what they just said. I got to get, because y'all, we wrote it down. I hadn't even really looked at it that much on the bus, because I thought, you know, Sage Steele's going to ask me one question, and we're off back to basketball. And then when I pulled up and there were hundreds, I was like, oh my gosh, this is big. This is bigger than I ever thought. And the one thing I did know, I don't think I've ever shared with you this. So you do know, like, that moment we got through that day and then that game. You remember I walked out, it was like 3 seconds left on the shot clock when I came out to the floor.
Right before the game started.
Before Golden State. Because Donald Sterling was coming to the game.
Right, you had to try to put that fire out.
Yeah, and so me and Andy are having literally an MF session on the phone. I'm sweating. I'm in the hallway standing by the tunnel, yelling. Like, he's not coming. He's not coming to this game.
No way.
He cannot show up to this game.
Yeah.
And finally, so when I walked out, I didn't know if he was coming or not. So I'm nervous, thinking this is going to be nuts. And I turned to one of the coaches, and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "We're going to lose, and it's going to be bad."
Yeah. Well, I mean, our mind was on everything but playing at that time. We had the world. We had the world trying to tell us what we should do: boycott, sit out, fucking don't play the rest of the series. We're like, hold on, and I understand where everyone thought they had an opinion, but like we said before we started, we felt like we had a championship caliber team, so we're not going to let that come crashing down because of an idiot ass owner. You know what I mean? Like, our goal is still, although we probably shouldn't have sat, we should have sat the way they whooped our ass. We should have just said, all right, you guys can have this game. We'll see you back in L.A.
That would have been, in retrospect, I know it would have saved us some time.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they jumped on us.
Yeah.
It was one of those days where there's no way. And then you remember we got on the bus and Shelly Sterling's on the bus. And
Oh, my God. Man. I don't know how y'all did it.
It was crazy, Jack. Jack, it was crazy.
That day, for me, like, it was when the day was already bad. We just got blown out. I'm fighting with people about not letting the owner come to a game. And then I get on the bus and Shelly is sitting on the other side. I was like, this got to be one of the worst days ever.
Yeah.
And we got through it. Like, I thought you guys handled it really well because each guy got on. And it was funny, Matt, if you remember, you would get on, you'd see Shelly, then your eyes would go to me, and I would, like, just kind of, like, what am I supposed to do?
Because we're pissed we lost, but at the same time, we're like, really? But then I was at the same time kind of had the wherewithal that knowing they were already on the rocks, but she still was a reputation of heavy, even though she wasn't as deep in. I liked Shelly personally, but Donna was a monster. But anyway, so we go back to L.A. for the next game, and remember all of our sponsors were blocked out. Like, they had black pretty much all over the arena because all of our sponsors had backed out on us before the game. But the one thing I remember was...
And the employees were going to quit.
Yep. You had to talk to them that day, right? Didn't you have to go down there and put that fire out?
Yeah, I leave shoot around. I should be going home. I'm driving downtown. I have a meeting with the employees at the Staples Center because Andy Roser went AWOL. And so they wanted to quit. And it was the first time that I actually got emotional. I actually called Adam, like, literally in tears, like, bro, y'all got to do something here. Someone's got to help me. Like, I'm a coach. I should not be like deciding crisis management T-shirt. They were asking me what color T-shirts for the game tonight, and should we play music? And I was like, and it was nuts. I'm trying to win a game and get our guys because y'all like that's also for me the first time I realized I couldn't imagine for y'all how strong social media was.
Oh yeah,
because I was old enough, like I didn't deal with it. Y'all had to. I was watching it live. Like, you guys were getting in contact. Jesse Jackson was reaching out to y'all. Al Sharpton. I was like, man, these guys got so much on their shoulders.
That was really the beginning of the social media movement. You know, when players started using social media for stuff outside of showing off whatever you were trying to show off. That's what, LeBron took a huge stand. After the fact, we kind of started saying what we had to say, but that was really the beginning of social media, and that's where a lot of the heat came from. Like, you guys shouldn't have did this. You guys are sellouts. You guys are this, and that. We're like, hold on, man, what the hell? But anyway.
So we get through it, and we get to that game, and beating Golden State in Game 7 was just satisfying. Because they were good. We were the only ones that knew it, though. It was like...
No, we knew they were on the way. We knew they were next, and it was like we had to do what we were supposed to do now because they were coming for sure.
You could feel it. You could see that team like, oh, boy, this team's going to be good.
They're coming.
Be good. Yeah.
So, we come back to a great ovation, end up winning the series in 7, lose to OKC. The Ballmer era, loved his energy. He came in with the right focus, and we really thought we were heading in the right direction. But to be honest with you, everything was perfect, but the chemistry between the people who were most important was the guys. We still couldn't the elephant was in the room, and it continued to get bigger. And we just couldn't get past that.
Then. As you know, by then it was way bigger.
It's huge.
It wasn't outward still, which was crazy, but we all knew it. And, a lot of stuff transpired, but, we get to that Houston series. I still say this: if Chris doesn't get hurt against San Antonio,
Yep.
We're at least playing Golden State in the Western Finals.
I agree.
Because Chris was never the same either. But that whole just listen. That's one of people ask me often what are your greatest success? What is one of your failures? And I always say one of my failures, I could not figure that out. Maybe it couldn't be figured out.
Right.
But I could not, you guys saw it. I tried so many different things, and it was just not going anywhere.
As a coach that have had locker rooms that you've been able to bring together, Boston being a prime example, what do you feel like the limit would have been to that team if we were all on the same page?
I think, you never can say you'll win a title, but that first year with Oklahoma, that year, we're playing in the finals.
I agree, yeah.
And I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Now, you don't ever know who's going to win and all that, but we would have been a finalist.
I agree.
But that is part of being a champion is not having that crap.
Right.
And so it just shows you guys have been around the game. Just think how many teams have not won because of crap like that.
Yep.
Right.
And it's such a waste, man. And over what? If you win it, it's everybody's championship. It's everybody's team.
Whose name is coming up first, or whose team it is? It was a nightmare. I want to jump ahead a little bit. What was it like? Because I was actually the first person to address him when he came because I knew it was going to be tough. What was it like having your son, coaching your son on a professional rank? You've obviously.
That was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard. I didn't want to do it. Dave Wool, who was the GM at the time, he started it, but before the year started, he said, man, Austin's he's a diamond out there that not playing well. We can get him for nothing, and he can really help this team. And I kept saying, well, that may be true, but no. That it just doesn't work. Because I think to make it work easy, he has to be the best player on the team or the worst player on the team. If you're in the middle,
it's gonna be tough.
Then it's a tough one.
Yep.
And that's where he was at. He was a role player, and whoever he played, if he played minutes, then there's somebody just as close to him that think they should be playing. And obviously, it's because he's my son.
It's a no-win.
So it was very difficult. And then Austin is he's got that prickly, tough. His personality, Austin's tough. He ain't giving in. You know what I mean? You're around
definitely.
him. It's what makes him a good player, but it also, what on our team, made it worse sometimes because he was so headstrong. So when you put all that together, it did work at times. I mean, the Houston series, he won a game for us.
Oh, he killed. He dominated.
Yeah, but it didn't work because we already had a locker room that was infected.
Yep.
So you couldn't bring in any other issues.
No.
And by doing that, it just brought in another issue. I will say this, after it was all done, and now Austin and I, when we talk about it, for us, it was awesome. It wasn't at the time. But now, when you look at it, the fact that I coached my son in the
NBA, yeah, of course.
Yeah, bro, you look back at that, it's never been done. And we had some amazing moments together. The day of trading him might have been the hardest one. I remember calling him. Listen, calling a player for me to tell him they're being traded is hard, no matter who he is. Because I do get closer.
I was at Roscoe's when you called me, Doc.
So you were in a great mood. You were happy.
I knew what was coming, Doc. I knew what was coming.
You were eating chicken and yams. You were good. But it's funny. Austin was great, man. He said, Dad, what are you upset about? It's time for me to go, man. I need to show that I can play on my own. I'm good. Thank you. He was great. I was the one hurting.
Yeah.
And he was probably sick of me by then anyway. So it was good, Matt, but it was hard. It was really hard. It's a hard thing to do, and I would just say this: if your player if he's the best player, I don't think it'd be that hard.
Right.
But when you're in the middle, it makes it hard.
Fast forward a little bit. The Chris Paul trade brings you guys Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, and a few other pieces.
Lou Williams.
Yeah, how tough was, you talked about speaking on Austin, trading him. How tough was it to trade Chris?
Well, it wasn't tough because we didn't trade him. He decided he wanted to go, and I was pissed that he wanted to go. But I got it. Like, one thing I've always understood, Matt and Jack, because I was a player. When players want to leave, man, I never fight that.
Yeah.
Like, if they think they can win it somewhere else, what's wrong with me trying to? Like, that's something that I've never fought. Like, I'm one of the few guys, coaches. I believe in free agency. I love the players, man. If you can control.
Yeah.
But once you get on that team, then be coached. That's the only thing that I would say. And so, so for Chris, it was tough because he left. And, so I didn't like that he left and how he left, but he left. And so that basically threw us into, what we're going to sign Blake or not. If we sign Blake, will we keep him or not? It changed our whole plans because we thought we were going to get Blake, keep CP. We thought we were going to end up with Blake and end up with Gal, I think. And we had a pretty good plan, and it kind of all fell through because Chris wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And honestly, it wouldn't have worked anyway because the Chris Blake thing still wouldn't have gone away. So it wouldn't have worked regardless.
That wasn't changing. Talk to us what went down for you guys to pull off something even crazier than keeping that team together, which was getting Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to come join you guys.
That was the best plan ever. Lawrence Frank, who in my opinion does not get enough credit for it, worked tirelessly every day. He would have Kawhi meetings, all season, Kawhi meetings. Just monitoring him, where is he at, what he's doing. Honestly, because I've been through so many free agencies where you sign guys, the deeper Toronto went, the less I thought we were going to get them.
To think a guy that would leave a team that led a team to a championship was unbelievable.
Yeah, so I didn't, until, and then after they won, when you start hearing, because, the league speaks if you listen, and all you kept hearing is, he's still going to leave. He's still going to leave. And so right when I started hearing that again, then I felt like, well, if he's going to leave, he's coming to us. We're going to get him. We're going to have the best sales pitch. We're going to have the best thing. And to me, when I felt like we were going to get him up, it was late, but when he decided to take the meetings with us and the Lakers, and he told the Lakers had this big thing set up at their practice facility and all this stuff, and he wouldn't do it. They had to meet him in his hotel room. But for us, he wanted to meet me at my house. And so when I'm thinking, if he's coming to our house, my house, he's telling me. But where I was impressed with him is the knowledge he had on the league. And even on our team, because I asked him, what do you think about our team? And without going through names, he point blank said who he liked, who he didn't like. Like I was shocked at his opinions and his knowledge. And then, the guys that he wanted, he basically told us, I want to come, but we're not good enough. And so that told us we had to go out and get someone. And PG was the guy. He named a couple other guys, but PG was the number one guy.
Now, quickly, fast forwarding into the bubble, obviously a crazy experience for everyone. We've talked to several guys who played in it. You guys were able to, obviously muster up, get through it. Take us to that Denver series, because I was someone along with when we had PG on earlier, we kept thinking, okay, they got one game, we'll win the next game. I was thought for the first time, I was happy to see. I'm like, I fought my ass off to try to, help this team put a banner up and we took pride in it. And I finally saw, it looked like, okay, man, they finally got the team that looks like it's going to get over the hump. And then, another collapse to Denver. What were the issues, or what do you felt like were the problems with that in another 3-1 drop?
Well, the issues were the whole season. The bubble was a disaster for us. Let's just keep it real. Like, it was. We had guys that didn't want to go from the beginning of it. We had guys that left the bubble, you know. I mean, come on, guys. Like, it was such a tough, like, I was so frustrated in the bubble because, you know, and some of it wasn't, you know, Trez's grandmother died. Like, and so he was gone for 30 days. And so you think about it, in the middle of the playoffs, we got Pat Beverly on a 5-minute in a row restriction, couldn't play more than 5 minutes in a row. Trez was at one point at 22 minutes. Lou was at like 24 minutes. We're in the playoffs.
Right.
And you know, it just, we never came together. If you watch us right before the bubble, we were rolling. And I thought, man, we're playing great. And then the season shuts down. And I really believe, like, you know, PG doesn't go through training camp, misses the first, 15 games, plays like 6 games, and misses another month. Up until the bubble, PG and Kawhi had 2 practices on the same floor. And so I was like, really, I was concerned by it. Like, man, we've had no time together as a group.
That matters.
And Denver, like, listen, we're up 3-1. We're playing great in that next game. We got to win that game, guys. Like, listen, we stopped playing in that game. Let's keep it real. And, you know, I always think, like, I always start with me. What could I have done differently? Of course, there's some kind of adjustments you could have made, I guess, you know. But what we were doing up until that point was pretty good.
Was working.
You know, and then losing that series, you know, losing Game 7, like I don't know, like, you know, you guys have been in games before the game. You feel good or bad, but you're rarely right. You know what I mean? Like, you know, man, we're ready tonight. And then you go out and you're not ready. Going into Game 7, I thought we were ready. I really did. And we were awful. We couldn't make, like, when you look at statistically, and I don't like analytics, but it was our second best shot quality of the whole season. Meaning we got great shots. We just couldn't make any of them. And, man, how many times have I said, you know, your offense will let you down sometimes. You got to lean on your defense.
Hang on your defense.
And we just didn't. So, but that series hurt me because, listen, I don't know if we would have beat the Lakers or not, but I felt like we were the whole year, that was the team we wanted to beat.
Yep. That's what the world wanted to see.
And the world wanted to see it. I wanted to see it. And, like, man, that one's going to take a while to get over.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been amazing. We got quick hitters right now. First thing to come to mind, let us know. And I'm going to start with best moment as a player.
Wow, that's a good one. Best moment as a player. You know, it's funny, man. I didn't win an All-Star game. I mean, I didn't win an NBA championship, but I would say that Boston series, just being in that series.
Go ahead, Jack.
Favorite coach to coach against?
Oh, Phil Jackson.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, he was the best.
Big Phil.
So, yeah, you wanted to beat him.
Absolutely. You got a chance to. Favorite teammate?
Wow. I'm going to go with...
Taking you back.
Yeah, you are. I'm going to go with probably John Starks. John Starks probably is where I'll stop. I have a bunch of them, but that's my man.
Love it.
Yeah. Proudest coaching moment?
Proudest coaching moment was probably Game 4 in the Lakers series.
The comeback. Yep.
The comeback, yeah.
5 dinner guests, dead or alive?
Ooh, that's good. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King.
Yes, sir.
Gandhi.
Wow. That's a first. We haven't had Gandhi yet.
Yeah, Gandhi would be great in that group. and Malcolm X.
One more. It's you plus 5.
Oh, Malcolm X and then my dad.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Because I think he'd be great at that table.
Solid conversation.
Final question. Who do you want to see on our show? Who do you want to see on All the Smoke?
Well, y'all had run-ins with Austin, so I would say Austin. But because I think it'd be hilarious because y'all all three are fiery.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a great conversation. But I would love to see LeBron. Have LeBron been on your show?
Nah,
He
not
hasn't.
yet.
He hasn't.
I
Doc.
would love LeBron to be on your show because I think LeBron, man.
We gonna get something out of him, Doc, that nobody have.
Yeah, and he's been like, God, I got this respect for him, man, because he was set up to not do well.
Oh, to fail from the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, the fanfare that LeBron James had coming in. There's no way you could reach it, and he's not only reached it,
He surpassed it.
Oh, yeah.
he's exceeded. So
Yes.
I would say LeBron would be my choice for you
good
guys.
call.
Get him on.
Absolutely.
Get him on.
We're going to work, man. We're going to work.
Yeah.
Well, Doc, thank you for your time. This has been a true gem for us. We appreciate you, man.
Guys, I've always loved you. Thank you. Tell those boys I said hi, Matt.
Absolutely, I will. Hey,
Thanks,
that's a
Coach.
wrap. Another episode in the books with Doc Rivers. You can catch us on Showtime Basketball YouTube and the Black Effects iHeart Network. See y'all next time.
When the camera's rolling, the heart pounds. It's thrilling to me.